So Charlie Kirk recently went to Cambridge University. He was destroyed there. They were a bit more rambunctious, but the Oxford lot have been a bit more calm, collected, and I think both strategies are valid. I'm here for a bit of, you know, jiggery pokery and also calm debate. But Charlie Kirk really got dismantled by this feminist guy. He's calm, he's bringing the points, and let's get straight into the video.
Hey, Charlie. So I wanted to return to a comment you made earlier about the generation of lost boys. You likened them to the Peter Pan movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about Red Pill Media as being a large influence, and I wanted to define that. It's a reference to the Matrix in which a lot of these media heads
I'm familiar with that.
talk about unplugging yourself. And it's about waking up to the realization that there is an active attack on masculinity, that men's rights need to be, that men are being oppressed in a way, and that men's rights need to be advocated for. Many people have attributed the Red Pill Media to rise in this almost generation of lost boys. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on do you see this generation of lost boys as a failure of, say, masculinity, or are there potential other factors, economic, social factors, such as, the death of the American dream, increasing costs of living in America, increased costs of education? Are there any other reasons as to why this generation of lost boys might exist, or do you basically attribute it to just...
I acknowledge all of that, of course. I mean, one of them, it's a very good faith question, and thank you.
But does he though? He says that, but do they actually take into account the socio-economic element and how capitalism, neoliberal capitalism, privatization has caused massive inequality where men often, and women, can't even afford to buy a house? He is for the system. He's so disingenuous, but let's continue.
In America, we made a stupid decision in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s to shut down our factories in the middle part of the country and basically disenfranchise and deindustrialize tens of millions of...
I just don't believe he didn't support that. The idea that somehow he would bring back industry, because that's such a disingenuous MAGA talking point. They're going to bring back American jobs. It ain't happening. If people were willing to prepared to pay 4-5 times for their iPhone, their laptops, even more, maybe. But we're not going back. We need to kind of maybe raise the living standards of the third world. A lot of complicated issues. But the idea that he was going to go against Reagan's policies of deindustrialization all of a sudden, this, it's just, again, he's lying.
Working class men and tell them to go move to the cities and learn to code. I said this in the
Again, pretending to care about the working class. If you cared about the working class, you wouldn't vote for Trump and his tariffs that will affect working class. He's not decreased grocery prices. Again, it's disingenuous.
Previous Q&A, but I can again, which is that a family used to be able to be supported on a single income of 35 weeks of labor a year. Now it takes upwards of 60 weeks of labor a year. However, given all the economic and social and all those factors, the largest of all of them is...
Yeah, and why is that? Trade unions have been emasculated. The fact that we don't tax the wealthy. The fact that corporation CEOs, they get 300, sometimes 400 times higher pay than the average worker. That's why that disparity has increased under neoliberalism in the last 40 years. That's why men are feeling lost. But they will never talk about that because they can't. Because he's funded by billionaires to have these talking points that stoke the culture war and don't solve any problems. He has no solutions.
Is the cultural and the educational that has infantilized men and hyper-feminized them in the messaging, in the outreach, and in the treatment. And so I can give you specific examples.
In what way?
Hyper-feminized. They always say this,
Is the education system infantilized men?
I mean, every possible way, from the hyper-medication.
That's not an argument. Every possible way. Okay.
Education of young men from in the core curriculum in America. We learn about toxic masculinity from ages 8 in public schools in California.
Again, a lie. No, they don't. Like the idea that it's a complicated sociological phenomena, like at 8 years old, like, but people believe it. He has his talking points, but people believe the lies.
And in New York, we never talk about toxic femininity. Do you agree that there's toxic femininity as well?
I mean, I think it's an unfair double standard.
Why?
Well,
how can femininity not be toxic if masculinity can?
I'm not saying they can't be.
Do we teach kids about toxic femininity in our schools? No, tell me yes or no.
I mean, I think that they come from two very different places. I think toxic masculinity comes from a level of misogyny, where I think toxic femininity often comes from a reaction to a misogynistic system which fundamentally oppresses and systematically oppresses women. And I'm not saying that toxic femininity is a good thing, but I'm saying it's a much more understood and valid reaction to a system of oppression versus toxic masculinity, which oppresses.
We'll see his response to that. But this is true. It's not the same. People go, oh, toxic feminine. No. Women could not even talk until the 17th century. They were seen and not heard. Like children. They were treated like women did not have a voice. Even into the early 20th century. Like, we don't really realize how bad it was. Like, unless you look in history and you see how women were treated systemically for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, and then you see actually how much advances we've kind of got since the 70s, in the last 50 years, how much women have got autonomy. You won't defend this. And again, I think the analogy of you with a partner for 40, 50 years, they're abusing you systemically. They're demeaning you, criticizing you, controlling you. And then all of a sudden, after 50 years, the woman snaps and she punches or kills the guy. Is that justified? No. But you understand it and why over the last 20, 30 years, women have been angry. Justifiably so, I think, in many ways. Because men have controlled them and the systems have been controlled. Like, the idea that the double standard, like, oh, yeah, women can be toxic. But is that comparable to the systemic patriarchy that has controlled both men and women? Neither benefit from it. But he won't talk about. But his response is quite interesting, actually.
Okay. So even if I grant you that.
And again, he knows his debate things because he has to grant that. He can't say, well, no. Women, we live in a matriarchal society where women have controlled men for millennia. Like, he grants that. And that's really good concession. Like, he has to do that because otherwise he'll look silly. But, like, I'd go into that and be like, okay, so you grant that. So where do we go from there? The fact that there is that double standard.
Even if I grant you that, are they teaching toxic? Has that term ever been used in a school that you know of?
What term?
See, he doesn't actually engage with the point. He just has his talking points and he goes, yeah, it's just this. You can't have a debate in this environment where he just has his gish gallops, his talking points, his little tick points. Like, again, what's a woman? Is toxic feminine? It's so meaningless. It's just it's essentially anti-intellectual because you should be able to respond organically. Because this guy he's responding to the questions. He's come with a question. And Charlie's actually admitted there's a socioeconomic and broader political point. And now he's conceded that there's a double standard with toxic femininity. So already Charlie's losing this debate.
Toxic femininity?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's weird. So only one sex gets criticized and called toxic. Maybe that
so fragile. Also, as well, earlier in this part, I was going to make this point saying, like, attacking men. Like, the right attack the left constantly. Like, they're belligerent. Like, Donald Trump, they will go, like, if you can't attack men for their patriarchy, for their beliefs, you are fragile. You are weak. Like, you're talking about, oh, men are strong. Yes, they have been infantilized, I believe. They can't take criticism. If you can't criticize the patriarchy and criticize men for their behavior, the fact that 90% of violence comes from men, that men kill 3, 4 women in the UK through domestic violence, they're more likely to commit sexual assault. They're more likely to be criminals. If you can't criticize that, like, you're weak. You're a weak man if you can't hear that criticism. Oh, you're attacking me. That's where masculinity's gone wrong, because men in the past were able to take criticism. I guarantee in the suffragettes, men were stronger than they are now. But again, they don't talk about that because they say, oh, feminization. No, men are weaker because they can't take the criticism. The left can. The right are really good at criticizing. They will just give us everything. We're like, yeah, fair. We believe in freedom of speech, but they don't because they're weak.
Creates a backlash.
Well, because one is creating a system of
Oh,
oppression.
no, that's
and the other
your
is a reaction to
interpretation.
it.
No, you can make every excuse under the book.
Your interpretation. You agreed with it. You conceded that, though, that we live in a patriarchal society where historically men have had more control politically, and still do, by the way. They're more likely to get paid more likely to be CEO, more likely to have influence, power. Like, but again, he can't. He's too weak.
That you'd like, but only one chromosome set gets criticized, called that they're terrible and awful.
Yeah, because women are never criticized in media. Only men are. Only men get criticized. So stupid. Women are criticized constantly. Like Meghan Markle, just criticized constantly in the media just for existing. Just women constantly are criticized just if they don't look the right way, or if they, deviate from what it means to be a woman in the mainstream media's eyes.
And that women basically need to be like go into the corporate world with no reservation, and young men see this pattern in the West and in our country from the authors, from the curriculum, from the music, from the movies, and we see, and of course, again, in the educational system proper, we have.
Yes, freedom of speech is a beautiful thing. We are allowed to criticize systemic structures in the same way we're allowed to criticize capitalism, we're allowed to criticize religions, we're allowed to criticize patriarchy. That is fine. In a democracy, that is fine. That is legitimate. And if you don't believe it is, you've got to go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. Go to the Middle East where you can't criticize patriarchy. Because we live in a democracy, Charlie. And if you don't like it, leave.
Have seen the infantilization of the young male. And so it's just, again, we know the data, you did agree to it, that young men are checking out completely, but we're actually living under a hyper-feminist West that is toxic. What does that mean? Speech police, feelings first, emotion over reason, community.
That's so ironic. You're saying speeching police. That's what you're trying to do right now. You can't criticize men. That is speeching police, you fucking idiot. But they don't realize that. Complete cognitive dissonance. Like, oh, how dare we criticize men? But you believe in freedom of speech now. Yeah, but just not against men. Oh, right. Well, that does make sense.
Over individualism, we're seeing this. And by the way, is it working? Is the West stronger as it's become more feminine in the last 30 years? No.
Well, what do you mean by that? Like, well, yeah, in a way, the fact that men are able to talk about their emotions more, we still got a long way to go, but yeah, men are able to talk about their emotions more. Women are more likely to take male jobs and have opportunities that they wouldn't have had in the past. Like, not that long ago, it wasn't even acceptable for a woman to work. Now they can have that choice. They can choose not to have children. Not that long ago, you didn't, like, even in probably the 70s, a lot of women didn't even have that choice. This is a good thing. Freedom is a good thing, Charlie. You need to embrace it. It's a good thing for everybody. Not just you.
In fact, our morale is weaker. We're more suicidal. Our fertility rates.
Yeah, why are we suicidal, though? That's not because of feminism. That's because of capitalism and how destructive it is. Status. The reason why men die by their own hand more is status. Their lack of money. Often it's financial. They can't even afford to keep a house, keep a family. And they feel shame for that because they've been told the whole life, you are defined by this masculine notion of providing. That's destructive. That's disgusting towards men. You are only valuable in terms of your utility to provide labor. That's destructive. And he believes that. That's disgusting. Men are more than just the money they can provide, I believe. But, maybe I care about men too much.
Are down, we have lost the balance. We've lost the yin and the yang between the male and the female. We lost what worked.
What do Andrea Bocelli, Steph Curry, Justin Bieber, and Tim Tebow have in common? All of their mothers were encouraged to end.
Oh my God. Okay. Let's skip the ad here.
He was talking at a summit, said we need to actually make things more feminine. Could you imagine if he said we need to make things more masculine? How does that sound?
People say it all the time. Men need to be more masculine. Like, what the hell are you talking about, Charlie? I think he's talking about Boris Johnson. Like, oh.
To a dock worker in Brighton or someone in Essex. We need to make things.
If they're that fragile and they can't take that, I'm sorry, they're a weak man. That's the thing. It's so ironic when you think about it. Like, oh, policing of free speech, but you can't criticize men and the system that men control. It's so pathetic. It's so weak.
Things more feminine? No. Instead, we need to restore the balance that God created man and.
No, there's no balance. We come up with these concepts. Like, unless you're a gender essentialist and say, oh, men are this, like, all men are masculine. No, they're not. It's ridiculous. Even he isn't. Look at him. Like, he's not a conventional man. He's not very good at arguing. He's very emotional. He has talking points that he's being provided by someone, which is very Cook behavior, by the way. Doesn't come up with this himself. He is literally given these talking points. These aren't off the dome. He's like literally would be going over a list of like, right, what's a woman? Is toxic femininity a thing? Like these aren't organic talking points.
Women, and right now and by the way, you want an example? Adolescence. How does that movie Adolescence not
a movie
broadly generalize a theme that, first of all, doesn't.
Yes, it's a TV program that explores a broader topic. Yes, it will generalize. It's a specific case study that doesn't necessarily represent reality because it's a film, but it indicates a broader tendency.
Exist. Secondly, is like a slow motion, like humiliation ritual for the young.
How? It's so weak. It's so ironic. It's so weak. Like the idea, like, how dare you criticize boys' behavior, which is a product of societal influence? How dare you do that? How dare you like you? Why do you believe freedom of speech and freedom of artistic expression? Disgusting.
Young boys of Britain. Could you imagine if there was a similar movie criticizing young women?
Yeah, have you seen Mean Girls? That's pretty much. That is literally an example of just how young girls can be horrible. Have you seen the film Heathers? It's a satire. Like the idea, it's just so stupid. Like, oh my God, people actually believe this though, and they're so dumb, aren't they? They're so pathetic. Like, oh.
That are like how they are the ones that are driving men away, about how catty they are, about how they don't want to be. No, it's fine. I'll just complete the point. I could give you data point after data point, and I would ask you the question: has the West grown stronger the more effeminate has become?
Okay. You've said a lot.
Yes, because that's all he has is the Gish Gallop. He'll just give you loads of shit ideas that it's like, oh God, how do I debunk all this stupid shit that is so like non-real, and then you have to like just focus on one or two things. That's all he has. He knows what he's doing.
Yes, that's how a Q&A works. You ask the question and I answer. So.
Oh, see, he gets defensive because he knows what he's doing, like the Gish Gallop. Like, yeah, this is how it works. Like, you ask a question, specific question, and then I give 10 stupid points, and then that means you can't really deal with more than one or two, and then it seems like I'm stronger to stupid people who don't know like anything, basically.
So I am the speaker. You know that's how it works.
That's okay, so on your point about adolescence, I don't think adolescence is a generalization. We are not saying that every young boy in the UK is like this. We're not saying every young boy goes through this process. It's an example of what can happen when people fall into this kind of media. I think it's like...
Imagine watching a film like Bruce Willis in Die Hard and you're like, oh, well, all men, all cops are capable of fighting terrorists in an airport. It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, you can't even, like, oh, it's mental. Like, the fact that we're at this point now, like, why are men so fragile? Comment below, like, why is masculinity and patriarchy, why is it so fragile? You poke it a little bit and it just crumbles so easily. Why? Like, if it's that fragile, it has to go. I'm sorry. Things like capitalism, if it's that fragile, you can't criticize it. Surely it has to go.
Like, and it's more of a story or a warning to what can happen to people that, you know, fall into these bubbles, who don't find the help that they necessarily need, that can turn violent. And like, this is a perfect example of toxic masculinity, in which the boy feels like he's not affirmed in his masculinity and takes that out on women. Like that, we've also then seen, like, within men, like the largest contributor to, like,
Yeah, also as well, his feelings weren't validated by systems, and that's it. That's like the fact he didn't have that emotional validation was the reason why he didn't. Society doesn't give that, and that's because we expect a certain thing of men, which is destructive, which leads to them dying by their own hand. Like, but he won't accept that.
men's deaths right now is male suicide. Like, but I would argue that is not a factor of feminization, but instead a factor of masculinity. The idea that men can't be in touch with their feelings. You talked about a feeling first approach being effeminate. So men are simply not allowed to engage with their feelings at all. Like, men not allowed to talk about their feelings. These are large contributors to a massive problem within men's spaces that lead to what is the highest contributor to men's death, suicide. And I think this idea that, you know, men simply go back to work, and if they're economically assured, then suddenly everything is fine. And, you know, men's mental health was never an issue before, like the 90s, or whatever it was, when we used to start affirming men's mental health, I think is an unfair, it's an unfair point to make. And I think it doesn't speak to a lot of issues that a lot of young men face. And I think it's a dishonest way to go about talking about this conversation.
Okay, so which part would you like me to respond to?
His point about suicide.
Let's go to the point about male suicide and masculinity not being allowed to affirm.
So to your
emotions.
point, if it was true that men have always been miserable, why have the suicide rates gone up?
He didn't say that. Like, straw man. Again, they have nothing. Just engage with what he's saying. What he's saying is right. Suicides are going up. Why? Is it because of socioeconomic pressures on men? Yes, it is. Is it because men feel like, oh, they have to be this provider or they're nothing? Andrew Tate said that. If you have nothing, if you can't provide your family, you're not a man. Men are being fed this propaganda constantly. You're defined by your wallet, your ability to have a job or nothing. There's two options for men, broadly. A job, jail, or homeless, or dead. That's and I'm not saying the opportunities are better for women or worse. I'm just saying that's the opportunity. Like, no wonder men are depressed. But this is to do with capitalism, not because women have rights. Like, he wants to blame it on that, but there's no empirical reality that emboldens that or reinforces that point.
Well, because we've started recording suicides better. It's not to say that suicides didn't occur on this level. It's just we simply have better ways of recording.
That's rubbish, and you know. Body.
Oh yeah, we recorded the male suicides in 1490. Yes. No, male suicides. Yeah, and again, the social expectations were different then. Like, there probably were lower suicides because you were just told to put up with it. We were just told to expect a shit life as a peasant. Like, yeah, this is life. It's not going to get any better. And also, you die probably when you were in your 30s. Like, life expectancy 100 years ago was about 40 years. 400 years ago, it would have been like in the 30s. So yeah, you would have had a short life anyway. Like, you probably wouldn't kill yourself because you die over a cut on your finger. Like, he's so stupid, isn't he? Like,
Body bags are data that transcends any sort of manipulation. It was a self-inflicted gun wound or being hung. It was not like a mass reporting issue 60 years ago in this country or in the West. It is a material fact because we know it's happening in the Anglosphere. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in America. It's happening all across Europe, that suicide rates.
Yes, why is it happening in the English speaking world? America, the UK, Australia, Canada. Why? It's because we're the more materialistic, status anxiety societies where we define ourselves by what we own. Do we own a nice house? Do we own a big car? That causes depression because it's that lack of community. Like, we're so individualistic. When we're social animals, it's like, yes, have more, consume more, work harder, consume more. That will make you happy. No, it doesn't. It makes people miserable. It's community, it's meaning, it's creativity, it's expression, it's relationships that create a meaningful life, not just men working 50 hours a week just to get by.
Of men are going up. Depression is going up.
Yes.
They are correlated together. It's not a reporting issue. There's something undergirding it. And in fact, just one other thing, your own
Yes, and it's not feminism. There's no data to suggest that. It's inequality. It's all the things I just said. He's so stupid.
prime minister endorsed adolescence. He sent out a tweet saying, I was shocked to the core when I watched this film and everyone should watch it. So that is an endorsement from the top leader, other than, you know, the king of this country, of endorse. I don't even know, may the king endorse that.
I mean, an endorsement is not a generalization.
Well, hold on. No. He said, I'm troubled to the core of what this could become.
Well, yeah, he's allowed to have a concern. He's allowed to have an opinion on a TV series that explores a topic that does affect both young boys, men, parents, women, young girls. Like, you may not agree with it, but sure you agree with freedom of oh no, he doesn't know. Sorry, I thought he agreed with freedom of expression, but he doesn't clearly. That's so obvious. Like, they're such hypocrites.
And you have to, again, that is one example of thousands that I could give, one that is the most applicable to here to this country. And I guess I would just ask this question in closing.
Not really.
Do you think men would be happier if they are married and providing for a family?
I don't think marriage or the institution of marriage is the only way a man can be happy.
Yeah.
That's not what I said. I said generally happier. Do you think men will be generally happier if they're married, providing, and have children?
I don't think that's a necessary factor to contribute to men's happiness.
What?
See, yeah, exactly. Such an easy answer. Like, no, why? Why does marriage inherently? 50% of marriages end in divorce. Oh, yeah, so that's what happiness. So you have to have a legal document with someone to be happy. That's so stupid. Like, that's not a logical argument. That's again, feelings over facts, baby. Such an emotional argument. You could say a feminine argument if you were so inclined. No, happiness is subjective. It's like, what gives you meaning? Well, you know, I like playing computer games. That makes you happy. I like being alone. I'm an introvert. That makes me happy. Like, marriage makes me happy. Like, the idea that you have to be married and in a family just to be, that's the only thing, is so depressing. People can live how they want. Freedom. They hate freedom. They hate your freedom of expression, freedom to create TV series, freedom to criticize the patriarchy, freedom to criticize men. Like, they're so fragile. They have nothing. They're weak. And we need to call it out because this is pathetic. Pathetic behavior from Charlie Kirk. He has nothing. He can't take criticism. He hates freedom of speech and he hates you. See you in the next video.